Welcome to the Brian Craig Show podcast. My name is Brian Craig, and this is where MAGA comes to talk. Welcome, one and all. Boy, oh boy, Gavin Newsom, he really messed up. You know, in presidential campaigns, in the primaries, and then in the general election, presidential candidates, say and do things that just in the campaigns. You know, the one that everyone always points to is Dukakis in the tank, but there have been others. And what happens with politicians, what's worse for a politician to happen to them than anything else is to become an object of ridicule. When a politician becomes an object of ridicule, no matter who they are, they're done. They never recover from it. But this week, we had not one, but two Democrat candidates who ended their presidential dreams before the primaries even started for the presidential election. And, of course, today was Gavin Newsom, which I'll play the clip of that. And then last week at the Munich conference, AOC ended her dreams. And this is devastating for the Democrats because the Democrats, what their plan was in 2028 was to run Gavin Newsom for president and AOC as his running mate. And AOC went over to Davos to introduce herself to the world as if it was some debutante coming out to society ball so she could show everyone how smart she is when it comes to international affairs. And she crashed and burned and looked like the idiot that she is. And then Gavin Newsom, with this SAT score and can't read comment, which I'll share with you in a moment, he showed his inner racism that most high-profile Democrats have and have had over the years, and they're both done. There's no way Gavin Newsom's going to recover from this. And that doesn't mean he's not going to run, but he's done. He's done, and since he's a Democrat, he'll handle this in a different way than if he were a Republican. I'm surprised he hasn't done this already. I expect him to have a press conference surrounded by black ministers and civil rights and faith leaders and start talking about dyslexia or something. All right, and so let's go back here. So this is Gavin over the weekend ending his political career.
I'm not trying to impress you. I'm just trying to impress upon you I'm like you. I'm no better than you. I'm a 960 SAT guy. and I'm not trying to offend anyone, trying to act all there if you got 940. But literally a 960 SAT guy. I cannot, you've never seen me read a speech because I cannot read a speech.
Oh.
Maybe the wrong business to be in.
Okay, so now he can't read either, Gavin Newsom. It's like when Biden started misspeaking and saying stupid things, they said that Biden had a stutter. I'd never heard that Biden had a stutter until he said stupid things. And now Gavin Newsom, all of a sudden, Newsom here is dyslexic. Have any of you ever heard that before? This very racist comment that he made, that he has a low SAT score just like black people do. I mean, this is hardcore Democrat racism. But remember this? This was Biden. Listen to this. This is Biden on the campaign trail.
And the other thing we should do is we should challenge these students. We should challenge students in these schools to have advanced placement programs in these schools. We have this notion that somehow if you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
Wow. Yeah. So, this is a common theme with, remember, the Democrats are the party of Jim Crow, the party of slavery, the party of segregation. So, every once in a while you get a little bit of honesty. And Gavin Newsom, what does he want us to believe? That he's never read a book? He can't read now? Since when can Gavin Newsom not read? Not only is this think about this now. What happened with AOC and Gavin Newsom this week was a bigger deal than is realized, I think, by people. It's obviously a big deal to Gavin and AOC that they blew their political careers. But Gavin Newsom has been groomed his entire life to be where he is today. Powerful, influential, rich people have surrounded themselves around Gavin Newsom. He's from a very well-connected family. His entire life, everything has been about becoming president of the United States. And now it's completely hopeless for him to even attempt to do that. And the reason it is because this moment over the weekend was hardcore racism in the man's bones. It was one of those rare moments of honesty from a Democrat politician when you got to see and hear what's in their heart. And, this guy is such a racist, he doesn't even know it. And he may be in California, but he's like one of those blue blood old money people on the East Coast. I learned something about him today. This is Dana Bash interviewing Gavin Newsom. He's talking about his mother and his father.
Your great-grandfather was very good friends with Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
And J. Edgar...
what the heck? His grandfather was good friends with Oppenheimer? The A-bomb? Ah.
Your great-grandfather was very good friends with Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
And J. Edgar Hoover got a file on them.
Got a big file on him, and was at the house and following them, and impacted his career.
So his grandfather was friends with Oppenheimer and was a communist. Now, that's why Hoover had the file. Now, I'm not saying that an association with Oppenheimer, from my perspective, is necessarily a bad thing, but I'm not a liberal, right? Liberals believe that the United States was wrong in dropping the A-bombs on Japan. Liberals believe that America owes a debt to Japan and the world for dropping those bombs. And now we find out that Gavin's grandfather was friends with the creator of them?
Your great-grandfather was very good friends with Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
And J. Edgar Hoover got a file on them.
Got a big file on him, and was at the house and following them, and impacted his career, impacted his future, and also impacted the family, and impacted so their way of living and seeing the world.
But you never knew any of this.
Didn't know any of this. I mean, there were vague hints of it, but it was never.
I have to say, there's kind of a Forrest Gump-esque notion to this, because it's whether it's Oppenheimer, you learn that your grandmother went to the Soviet Union. I mean, they were communists.
She was.
What the heck? So, let me tell you, I just put. Have any of you heard this before? This is new information to me. So his grandparents were friends with Oppenheimer. Hoover had a file on Grandpa, and his grandmother traveled to the Soviet Union. And we're talking about traveling to the Soviet Union like in the 50s and 60s, during the Stalin era, during the worst times of the Cold War. You know what this sounds like to me? This sounds like his grandparents were Soviet spies. Doesn't it sound that way to you? Why would someone be hanging around with Robert Oppenheimer and then also traveling to the Soviet Union? Does it sound like Gavin Newsom comes from a family of Soviet spies? It does to me.
Your great-grandfather was very good friends with Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
And J. Edgar Hoover got a file on them.
Got a big file on him, and was at the house and following them, and impacted his career, impacted his future, and also impacted the family, and impacted so their way of living and seeing the world.
But you never knew any of this.
Didn't know any of this. I mean, there were vague hints of it.
Well, because the family doesn't want everyone to know that they're Soviet spies. His family, they're like the Americans. That FX show, The Americans. Love that show. I've watched the entire series like 3 times over the years. You ever watch The Americans?
But it was never.
I have to say, there's kind of a Forrest Gump-esque notion to this, because it's whether it's Oppenheimer, you learn that your grandmother went to the Soviet Union. I mean, they were communists.
She was Trigger Addis, an actress.
And she studied with Stanislavski.
Yeah. I didn't know this.
You did know that you're
See, the acting is part of the spycraft.
Gump-esque notion to this, because it's, whether it's Oppenheimer, you learn that your grandmother went to the Soviet Union. I mean, they were communists.
She was Trigger Addis, an actress.
And she studied with Stanislavski.
Yeah. I didn't know this.
You did know that you're related to the Pelosi's by marriage.
Yes, that.
You're great.
Okay, so this is really disturbing stuff. It sounds like, without a doubt, his grandparents were spies for the Soviet Union. Now, I'm not one of these people that necessarily says, sins of the father and all of that. But in this situation here, we're in a new era. We're in a bit of a new era here with Gavin Newsom, one that I don't think many people were knowledgeable of. And now that this racist thing that he dropped over the weekend came out, people are looking closer at him. He is done politically. A guy with these kind of connections cannot be in the White House with security clearances. And and here's another thing. I think there's no question his grandparents were spies for the Soviet Union. Would you disagree with it? Can anyone disagree with that? And this acting is so that she could fit in with with her spying and all that. We know that the CCP, China, has an incredible spy network throughout California. If his grandparents were spying for China, who's to say he's not doing it? I mean, I'm sorry, if his grandparents were spying for the Soviet Union, who's to say that he's not doing it for the CCP? You can't trust this guy. And it's not just because he's a Democrat. I don't say this lightly. I mean, this guy is worse than I realized. And really, a great favor was done for us by Gavin Newsom exposing himself with his racism. Now, on the show this morning, I was talking about Byron Donalds in Florida, and there's been a major update. I want to pull up a couple things here. Hold on, let me see if I can find this. I don't need this second piece, but I do want to. Okay, yeah, let me see if I can pull this up. Okay. I was talking this morning about Byron Donalds. He's running for governor in the Republican primary here in Florida. And this new guy, Fishback, I call him Fish Sticks, has been getting this big internet movement going, and he's been doing rallies around the state the last few days with a lot of people showing up. And I've been very concerned that, and I was talking about this morning, that Byron Donalds is taking the Trump endorsement maybe for granted, and he's not taking this Fish Sticks guy serious enough. And I saw two things today. One, which I'll show you in a moment, of the polls. But first is Governor Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis talked about Byron Donalds today. I want to play this for you. Now, people all the time tell me that I got to, stop giving Ron DeSantis a hard time and forgive him for his betrayal. I've told you guys he's been the best governor we've ever had. He still does great things as governor of Florida. But can you trust him? And you can't trust him. He lied to Trump and he lied to us. He was never MAGA. And he lied to the president and more too. But I don't want to get sidetracked on that. But people say, oh, you should get over it. You should get over it. Well, Ron DeSantis came out today and threw Trump-endorsed Byron Donalds under the bus. Listen to this. This is Ron DeSantis today.
Victories up there. So I think people look at it and say, you got a guy like Byron, he just hasn't been a part of any of the victories that we've had here over the left over these last years. He's just not been a part of it.
What is he talking about? See what I mean about trusting Ron DeSantis? When Ron DeSantis ran for governor the first time, he was in the same position as Byron Donalds. He was a Florida House member. Well, he was a member of the House, not the member of the Florida House. I'm sorry. He was a member of the United States House of Representatives representing Florida. So he was a congressman like Byron Donalds. What did he do for Florida while he was in Congress? I don't really remember. I don't understand this standard, but it looks to me that he is looking to endorse someone other than Byron Donalds. Now, I did look over the latest polls, and Byron Donalds is not only ahead, he's double digits everywhere, right? I mean, look at this. 30 points ahead. What is that one? Does that say 42? Hold on, let me look. Yeah. 42 points ahead, 13 points ahead, 27 points ahead, 41 points ahead. You know, he's ahead with major double digits, Byron Donalds, in most every poll as of now. And this fish sticks guy, these crowds that he has could be paid for crowds. I don't know. He's going viral on social media, and I want to be completely wrong. But these polls could give Byron Donalds a false sense of security. And when I saw Ron DeSantis come out today and throw him under the bus, Byron Donalds, it backed up what I was saying, that the Republican establishment do not want Byron Donalds to win the nomination. If Byron Donalds wins the Republican primary for governor, he'll win. If he doesn't, and Fish Sticks wins, or a lesser known, we may not win. You know, you need someone who is going to be popular enough to motivate people to go out and vote. It's an off-year election. And I was telling you guys this morning that Fish Sticks' campaign strategy is modeled after the Mamdani campaign in New York, meaning that Mamdani, and Democrats have a history of doing this, but Mamdani came in during a primary that no one was paying attention to. You had some old guard people from the party. It was Governor Cuomo, who were very arrogant, didn't take him serious. Low voter turnout primary. He got all of his people rounded up, and they went and voted, and he won the primary, Mamdani. And now look where he is. He's the mayor of New York. And that's what they're looking to do with Byron Donalds. Turnout is low during primaries, typically, especially in a kind of like a midterm primary like this. Turnout is low, and with low turnout, the Republican establishment and the Democrats, they get their ground game going. They can have some surprising wins and mess things up. And when I see DeSantis coming out like this today, it's not making me happy. It's making me very concerned. And I'm not in a panic about it yet, but I've got my eye on it, and we all need to look into it. You know, there's I would have liked, I want to see Byron Donalds win for a lot of reasons, not just because President Trump has endorsed him, but he is a trustworthy MAGA Republican. We don't need just a Republican governor. We need a MAGA Republican governor. And other than Byron Donalds, there's some other people running in the Republican primary. I don't even know who they are. You know, they're not well-known people. They don't have that celebrity status. So if anyone other than Byron Donalds gets the Republican nomination for governor, the race is a toss-up race. The Democrats could win it in Florida. And you know me, I'm a very positive thinker when it comes to the elections, but when I see some mistakes being made, and I think they're being made here by the Byron's camp, which is not taking the opposition serious enough, that gets me worried. Now, this was on CNN today. I got some good news here.
Take into account the population mid-2025. Look at this. The biggest population growth this decade, all 5 of the states that Donald John Trump won in 2024. Texas, Florida, North Carolina, Georgia, and of course the great state of Arizona, where I spent my New Year's Eve. I love those folks out in Prescott, Arizona. These were the biggest gainers. the biggest gainers in terms of population compared to the 2020 census. Now, it's not just a red state boom. This is what we're looking at. We're looking at a red state boom here, but it is not just a red state boom. We're also looking at what I would dare call a blue state depression, because who are the people? Who and where are the people moving from into the red states? Well, they're blue states. They're blue states. Take a look here. The lowest domestic net migration this decade. All 5 of the states that were won by Kamala Harris in 2024. Look at this. California, Harris's home state. New York, where I'm coming from right now, of course. Illinois, New Jersey, and of course the great Commonwealth of Massachusetts, which is a bastion of blue liberalism. These are the states that folks in the United States are moving away from and into the red states, which is propelling a red state boom. Now, this is interesting, right? But it could also have major political ramifications if it holds for 2030, the next census. Because take a look here. If, in fact, the 2025 population shifts hold for the 2030 census, look at this. Look at the House seat shifts by state. Remember, of course, we apportion the number of House seats depending on the population in each state. If, in fact, the 2025 population shifts hold for 2030, states that Kamala Harris won, they would lose. They would lose 7 seats in the United States House of Representatives. The states that Donald Trump won in 2024, they would gain 7 seats. Now, this isn't just about the House of Representatives, right? It's also about the Electoral College, because the number of electoral votes that each state gets is equal to the number of senators. Each state, of course, has 2, plus the number of House seats that they have. So what would this mean for the House of Representatives? Well, if you remember back in 2024, right, it was all about, we were talking about the blue wall. If Kamala Harris could win the baseline Democratic states and then add in the blue wall states of Michigan, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, she would get to 270 electoral votes. But if all of a sudden we, in fact, have applying the 2025 estimates, the population estimates, to the Electoral College, the blue states plus the blue wall of Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin would no longer be enough. Under the current estimates, you get to exactly 270 electoral votes, the minimum needed to win the Electoral College. If, in fact, you apply the 2025 estimates, look at that. You would only get to 263.
See what's happening here? See, the Democrats, this is why these midterms in 2028 are so important on so many different levels. Right? You know, what's happened here, and this, by the way, isn't factoring in the deportations and the voter ID being required to vote in federal elections. Right? So you factor in the change in the Electoral College count and the House seats leaning Republican. You count voter ID being required, the illegals gone. The Democrat Party has no path with all of these things. They have no path to win the presidency. And believe me, they know it. That's why things they're doing crazy things. Trying to cause rebellion in Minneapolis. Assassination attempts on President Trump like the one we had over the weekend here in Florida. Another one, the 4th one here in Florida. Because the Democrats see that not only is there not a path for them to win next time and the time after that, the shift in the country with all these things that I mentioned are making it so there's no path ever, no matter what, for the Democrats. And they know it. So what are they going to do? Well, they had this hope of Gavin Newsom and AOC for some reason, and that evaporated over the past 7 days. Her last week, him this week. That's over. They've got no one. You know? And they're not even making changes to try to win people back. The Democrats are so angry. They can't say to themselves, you know, what we're selling, no one's buying it. And they're not changing up their game. I've talked many times about how when Bill Clinton ran for re-election in 1996, the Newt Gingrich-led Republicans were very popular. And he took all of Newt Gingrich's Republican Party ideas and he made them Democrat ideas and ran on them to win victory in 96. But the Democrats, they don't have any grown-ups in their party to admit mistakes and that they're on the wrong side of everything and make changes. They're doubling down on the positions that they've taken that have people rejecting them. Now, this is a good thing. I don't want the Democrat Party to get its act together, okay? And I know, any MAGA Republican, certainly we don't want the Democrats to get their act together. But what's happening here with the Democrats, the reason I'm not just celebrating this demographic shift is because when the Democrats get more and more desperate and see that there's no hope for them, what are they going to do? It's hard to say. They're very angry. They're out of control. They're violent. So what they do, I don't know. No one does. They don't even know yet. But you know what? It's not going to be good because they're not going to go down and just say, oh, well, it's time to move on. That's not going to happen. All right. If you're on hold, hang in there. I'm Brian Craig. You're listening to The Brian Craig Show, available on all podcast platforms. We'll take a quick break and be right back.
In the cold silence of space, some battles are fought with weapons. Others are fought with memory, loyalty, and blood. From author Alan Grangenet comes the powerful military sci-fi space opera where family and fate collide. Galilee Rising, Two Brothers, Two Ships, One Reckoning. Available on Amazon. In Galilee Rising, two brothers are torn apart by violence. Each believes the other is gone forever. One becomes a relentless hunter, operating outside the law. The other rises within the ranks of a powerful interstellar fleet. Both are driven by justice. Both are shaped by loss. And both are moving toward a reckoning that could change the galaxy. Blending heart-pounding space combat with deep emotional stakes, Galilee Rising is a story of duty, revenge, redemption, and the cost of survival in a universe at war. Galilee Rising is available now on Amazon, in Kindle, paperback, and free with Kindle Unlimited. Galilee Rising, Two Brothers, Two Ships, One Reckoning. From author Alan Grangenet. Order your copy right now on Amazon.
On the line, we have Gina. She's a client of Jupiter Joe Thomas. Gina, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, Brian?
I'm doing great, thanks. So you went and met with Joe Thomas about annuities. Can you tell me about your experience?
I can't say enough good things about my experience with Joe Thomas. He's a straight shooter. He tells it like it is. He talks in plain language so that you know, because I didn't know anything about this stuff when I retired. So I walked into his office, and immediately I felt comfortable. And I said, look, I know nothing about this. I don't want to lose my shirt. So please guide me in the right direction so that I'll be set. And he sure did. And I'm very happy that I went there. And I even got my mother to join, too. Now I feel comfortable that I'm set, and I don't have to worry about running out of money.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than running out of money before you run out of life, right?
Exactly.
Give Jupiter Joe Thomas a call and schedule your no-charge consultation. His number is 561-743-0999. 561-743-0999 and online, jupiterjoe.com. All right, Gina, thanks so much.
Thank you, Brian.
Looking for more patients? ProvidersNook.com helps healthcare professionals get discovered. ProvidersNook.com's easy-to-use directory connects local patients with doctors, therapists, and clinics, so your practice stands out when it matters most. ProvidersNook.com makes healthcare easier to find. Patients quickly discover trusted providers nearby, and healthcare professionals gain more exposure, more bookings, and more growth, all in one powerful directory. Best of all, it's very affordable. Go right now to ProvidersNook.com. That's ProvidersNook.com, your premier healthcare provider directory. ProvidersNook.com.
Welcome back, everyone. My name is Brian Craig. This is the Brian Craig Show podcast. Thanks for joining. If you'd like to call in, the number's toll-free, 888-465-2631. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, it's Jack from Sarasota again. I have an honest disagreement with you, Brian.
As opposed to a dishonest disagreement?
Well,
I mean, why do you have to preface what you say by being honest? I mean, are you usually dishonest? I'm confused.
Well, no, I'm just trying to have a conversation with you so that you don't hang up on me.
I'll give
like
it. I'll give
do.
it 10 seconds if it's relevant to what I'm talking about.
Well, listen, I disagree with your polling numbers that you're pulling from CNN on several means. I think that the Democrats are going to do a lot better than what you're saying to your viewers.
Okay.
And I mean, to be honest with you, while I don't necessarily think that Gavin Newsom would be the best overall pick, I think that.
Well, what are you offering? I mean, I'll give you an example today. President Trump had it was really hard to watch. It was so sad. I had tears in my eyes. He had the angel families at the White House today and announced it's Angels Family Day, and it's a federal day now. And he had Lincoln Riley, mother there, and parents of people who have lost their children because, or other family members because the Democrats' illegal aliens killed them. And he even had a police officer who arrested the murderer of Lincoln Riley, and then they let the guy go. And it was just an awful thing. And President Trump pointed out, rightly so, that all of those people, their relatives are dead because of the Democrats. He went into great detail about it. What the Democrats are offering. What are the Democrats offering that's positive? Death of American citizens, rape and murder of our women. What do the Democrats offer that people would say, oh, let me vote for them?
Well, for one, I disagree with you. There is no proof that the Democrats would ever want anyone to be killed by an illegal immigrant.
They had the entire border open, allowing criminals into this country by the millions who did all the and knew that they're even still today. While ICE is deporting rapists, murderers, and other offenders, the Democrats are trying to stop them at every step of the way from doing it. So, you can disagree, but you would be wrong.
Well, Brian, to use your very own words, which you've said, I believe, maybe a week or two ago, the crime rates are the lowest they've ever been. And statistically speaking, millions of illegal immigrants that have come into the country, I mean, if they're all criminals that have escaped from prison or been released from prison, the crime rate should still be pretty high.
No, the murder rate, the violent crime rates in all, including the murder rate, are at their lowest level in 125 years, since 1900 when statistics were first kept. Now, the only thing that's changed in the country in the last year to bring down these violent crime rates, including murder, are the deportations and shutting down the border. And while we haven't deported all of the illegals, a lot of them are afraid to go out and are in hiding, and they're not out doing crime. So the only thing that's changed in the country is the deportations. That's why the crime rate has been. But let me get back to this. What are the Democrats running on that people would say, oh, let me vote for that? Raising taxes? What are they running on?
The Democrats are running on following the Constitution. I mean,
the Constitution. No, be specific. That's a vague generality. Give me a specific.
May I finish answering your question? Can I finish answering your question?
Give me a specific.
There is more than half, probably 75% of the people that are in these detention camps, or what I call concentration camps, don't have any violence in their history.
You still
whatsoever.
haven't given me. See, you're back. You're agreeing with me. You're making my point. What you're doing is guarding your precious illegals. My question was, we're talking about the election. What are the Democrats offering that people say, "Hey, I like that. I'm going to vote Democrat." You're telling me that you guys are worried about your precious illegals.
And doing the right thing.
That's a vague generality. Be specific.
Okay. Be specific. Okay. Well, here we go. If you have a Democrat take control of the United States of America, which will most likely happen with the Senate and the House of Representatives in this next election, if Trump allows it to happen, as in he doesn't prevent it from happening, we're going to be running basically opposite of whatever Trump is doing.
I have no idea what you just said. I have no idea what you just. Let me give you an example. Trump said, "Vote for me. I'm going to shut down the border. I'm going to deport the illegals. I'm going to finish the wall. I'm going to make the Trump tax cuts permanent. I'm going to equalize the tariffs." These are very specific. You're giving me vague generalities and platitudes.
Okay, well, Trump isn't following. Okay, sorry. Forgive me for getting my words confused there. Listen, what Trump is doing is causing more chaos when he has his ICE officers go into these towns and kill multiple people.
See, back to you're back to your illegals again. You guys have like Democrats. You guys have like a fetish for these illegals. Everything with you goes back to the illegals. Listen, I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna move on. I'll give you the last word.
Brian, I'm saying this because I don't want to bring up that one particular thing that you don't like people to bring up. I'm doing that as a favor to you because
I'm doing you a favor. I'm doing you a favor by letting you participate. But listen, I'm going to move on. But try to be more normal. Try to be more. That. Listen, try to be. It was a nice conversation, try to be like a normal person, like you're doing now. All right, take care. Now I'll tell you, this. I saw this a little while ago, and I hope they change their mind about this. Okay. We had this great victory at the Olympics, right? The men won the gold, the hockey players, the Team USA women's hockey team won the gold medal. And President Trump invited both teams, both the men and the women, to the White House. And as of this moment, the Team USA women's hockey team has declined the invitation to the White House. They've declined the invitation. What a bunch of scumbuckets, really. You know, how dare they wear the Team USA insignia and flag? You know, this is why I didn't watch the Winter Olympics. It was, you know, what a bunch of whiny girls. You know, and they are girls, so it's not sexist to call them that. You know, we have this great unifying experience in this country. Both the women's and men's hockey teams won gold in the Olympics. Same year, same Olympics. That's amazing for that to happen. It doesn't happen that often. It may never happen again, or maybe it will if our guys are that good. But what kind of disrespect is this? And, you know, these men, many of them play on pro teams and are worth many millions of dollars and everything. But these women are not going to be the success that the men are, not just because the men can play in the National Hockey League, and many of them do on the team, if not all. I don't know about the team, but the ones I've been seeing in interviews and the great players from the other night are NHL players. These girls here, they're going to go nowhere. They're going to be like Megan Rapone because, you know, the country is not behind this woke BS of disrespecting our country all the time, you know? And so far as the president's immigration policies, you don't think they needed passports to go to Italy for the Olympics? Of course they needed passports to go to the Olympics. Now I saw that. I want to show this to you guys. I saw this earlier today. This whoever put this together is pretty smart. Someone put this montage together. This was you've seen what's going on in Mexico. The drug cartels in Mexico are launching a war against their own country. I mean, it's pretty scary, right? You know, tourists have been told to shelter in place. We're seeing the fires and the attacks. As of the last report, 25 Mexican soldiers have been killed. This is a story from the CBC of Canadians who no longer want to come to Florida on vacation or the United States, and instead are going to go to Puerto Vallarta, where some of this violence is happening, and Mexico. And someone put together this montage on the screen. It's a split screen. You hear the Canadians talking about how great it is to go to Mexico instead of the United States. And on the bottom of the screen, you see the violence and fires that's going on in Mexico.
Charles Burt and Marilee Mollard are getting advice from their travel agent on where to travel this winter.
So, have you guys decided on where you would like to go?
Well, on the bucket list is Puerto Vallarta.
Oh, yes.
The Manitoba couple usually spends weeks or even months at a trailer park in Weslaco, Texas, but not this year.
Since the election of Trump and the insults that he placed on our country, 51st date and all of that garbage, we decided that, no, we're not going to spend money down there.
They're not the only ones making that decision. According to the Mexican Ministry of Tourism, the number of Canadians flying to Mexico increased by 11.3% between January and September compared to the year before, an increase of almost 200,000 tourists.
You know, let me tell you, a lot of Canadians come to Florida, and Floridians don't like Canadians down here. The Canadians that come here, especially the French Canadians from Quebec, but the Canadians in general are not liked here in Florida. When I first came to Florida as a kid, I would hear people talking about the Canadians and how they didn't like them and all, and I didn't understand it until I lived here for a while. They're rude. They're very arrogant. They think they're doing you a favor by visiting, and people don't like the Canadians in Florida. So in Florida, we have plenty of tourists coming to the greatest state in the United States, Florida, all the time. We don't need the Canadians. And when we first started hearing that they were going to Mexico instead, because that's the paradise of the world, we were very grateful. Now you look at what's going on in Mexico, and boy, oh boy. And the places they're going, Puerto Vallarta and the other places, are the places where the cartels are attacking.
Melia Hotels International is seeing it at its 8 Mexican resorts.
Definitely in the last year, compared to the previous year, we have seen an increase of 22% of Canadians coming to our Mexican properties.
And I must tell you, I don't believe their statistics. And beating the U.S. men's hockey team, beating the Canadian hockey team is such a sweet victory. Not only because we've been having this recent conflict with Canada. It's their national sport. It's their national pastime. Hockey is to Canada what baseball is to the United States. And to beat these arrogant jerks who have been abusing us and taking advantage of us and just not being pleasant to the United States, when they've been living off of us, milking us, overcharging us for the tariffs. Some of the tariffs are close to 300%. It's just an extra special victory over Canada. So the reason that the girls' team didn't go is they didn't like what President Trump said to the men's team on the phone. So I couldn't play this whole thing on the morning show, on the radio, because Kash Patel uses some profanity. But this is the president on the phone with the U.S. men's hockey team.
1 minute. 1 minute. And by the way, your goalie played not bad.
How are you? Say hi. How are you? Say hi to him.
How you doing, Don? I have seen hockey goalies have slightly worse games. Unbelievable, and you were all unbelievable. And that team is pretty good you played. I don't know if it's not going to begin anytime soon, right? And, I tell you what, I just told my people 2 minutes ago, I didn't know they'd be calling. I said, we're giving the State of the Union speech on Tuesday night. I could send a military plane or something, but if you would like to, it's the coolest night, it's the biggest.
We're in.
Yeah.
Can you pick us up in Miami on Tuesday morning?
Yeah, Tuesday morning. Close the northern border. We'll get cash and we'll get the military to get you guys over.
Okay. Let's go.
Boys are going to the State of the Union. The nice thing about being president is I can tell you, you don't have to worry about the weather or landing. So we don't care if it's snowing, if it's the worst blizzard, we'll be sailing through that sucker just like you did on the ice.
Thank you, Mr. President.
What would really be cool, and we'll do the White House the next day, we'll just have some fun. We have medals for you guys. And we have to, I must tell you, we're going to have to bring the women's team. You do know that.
Okay, now see, here's the part where the women's team got upset at what he said here.
Some fun. We have medals for you guys. And we have to, I must tell you, we're going to have to bring the women's team. You do know that. I do believe I probably would be impeached, okay? But anyway, if you could work that out, I would be honored to have you. I'll introduce you to the whole...
I got it, boss. I got it.
Okay, you got it, Cash.
I'm on it.
Cash is doing it. I'm happy.
I'm fucking on it.
Congratulations.
Is Cash drunk here? Is he buzzed? You dropping the F-bomb there talking to the president?
That was an unbelievable game. I don't know if one person that wasn't... Everybody that called me said, I'm watching the hockey game. You know? I don't know if anybody that wasn't. And you're going to be proud of that game for 50 years as you grow older. I mean, it was amazing. So we love you guys. Congratulations. And I hope to see you, Cash, Tuesday night. And I want to shake hands. I'm going to shake hands with everybody, but I got to shake hands with that goalie.
Tuesday night. We'll see you Tuesday night, Mr. President.
I'm driving the bus, boss. We're bringing the whole bus.
Oh my goodness, yeah. I think Cash Patel had a few beers for the goal. You know, one of the things about making America great again, which the liberals hate that. They just can't stand the whole idea of making America great again. But part of making America great again is making people proud of America, right? Because we've had about 2 generations of people in this country who have been brainwashed by the media and the public education system to hate this country. And what you're seeing, we're not seeing it with the ladies hockey team, but what you're seeing with these guys on the men's team, you're seeing a love of country, and you've seen the interviews, they're praising the country. You're seeing a revival of American patriotism. And it's interesting that it's happening during the 250th anniversary year, because we had some of that in the bicentennial in 1976, even though we were coming out of that whole Vietnam War era. Listen, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, there's a lot more to share. My name's Brian. If you're on hold, hang in there. If you'd like to call in, the number's toll-free, 888-465-2631. Back after this.
Looking for more patients? ProvidersNook.com helps healthcare professionals get discovered. ProvidersNook.com's easy-to-use directory connects local patients with doctors, therapists, and clinics, so your practice stands out when it matters most. ProvidersNook.com makes healthcare easier to find. Patients quickly discover trusted providers nearby, and healthcare professionals gain more exposure, more bookings, and more growth, all in one powerful directory. Best of all, it's very affordable. Go right now to ProvidersNook.com. That's ProvidersNook.com, your premier healthcare provider directory. ProvidersNook.com.
This is Mark Laporta, son of Tom Laporta and proud second-generation owner of Laporta Roofing. As a military veteran who served in the Army after 9/11, I've brought the same dedication and discipline to our family business. At Laporta Roofing, we've been serving our community for nearly 4 decades, and we're committed to continuing that legacy of excellence. Our team specializes in all types of roofing systems, from shingles to tile, slate, metal, and flat roofs. We're the go-to experts for single-family homes, HOA communities, and condo associations. What sets us apart is our unwavering commitment to customer satisfaction. I've personally implemented systems to ensure you receive the best in customer service and workmanship. Don't miss out on our limited time offer for a free roof inspection. Call us now at 954-604-4602 or visit us at laportaroofing.com. Trust the experts who have been protecting homes like yours for generations. Again, that number is 954-604-4602.
All right, we're back. I'm Brian. Now remember, The Brian Craig Show is available on all podcast platforms. If you want to catch the show live in video form, that's on YouTube. Just search for The Brian Craig Show everywhere. Okay, so here's AOC, and here she is whining after she's destroyed her political career.
If you think that I don't understand foreign policy because out of hours of discourse about international affairs, I pause to think about one of the most sensitive geopolitical issues that
Now, did somebody add this snoring to the, or is this her fiance that she's been engaged to for 10 years? in the background. Is that really him snoring, or did somebody add this?
If you think that I don't understand foreign policy because out of hours of discourse about international affairs, I pause to think about one of the most sensitive geopolitical issues that currently exist on Earth, I'm afraid the issue's not my understanding, but rather the problem is perhaps you've gotten adjusted to a president that never thinks before he speaks. If you think that I don't understand...
Okay, so I don't know if the snoring was added or if that's really him snoring. And I don't know what's wrong with her voice either. But what she says at the end, I don't know. Has anyone determined whether that's really him snoring? You know, one of the reasons I'm surprised, they sleep in the same room. I'm shocked. But notice what AOC does here. She had this, we've had 3 big embarrassments this week. AOC, Gavin Newsom, and Tucker Carlson. But her embarrassment of not knowing the answers to these things and everything, it's not her fault. It's your fault. It's not her fault. It's your fault. Oh, yeah, that's gonna win people back. Now, Byron Donalds must have heard the show this morning because he's come out and he's talking about fish sticks here. Listen to this. This is from, it's a Florida political news website. Byron Donalds slams rival James Fishback as performative slop after campus confrontation attempt. Yeah, he went to some event where Byron was at and tried to get in and the security wouldn't let him in. And performative slop, I like that because this guy, have any of you taken my advice from this morning to go online and look up fish sticks? You know, my wife came up with the best way to describe Fishback, and it's cosplay. He's a cosplay Republican. He's a fake Republican. And when you see the way he acts, it doesn't seem natural, does it? It's a guy, really it seems like a boy, a little boy, playing pretend, playing make-believe. But he, this performative slop, what my wife says, cosplay Republican, what all that means is he is performing in a role as a Republican. He's not really a Republican. He's portraying a Republican in a role, and the play was written by liberals who aren't really Republicans, so they write it from the stereotype Democrats have of Republicans. Does that make sense? And he looks so ridiculous when he's out there. And I'm glad to see that Byron Donalds is speaking out against him. Now, there's a couple of things about this guy that are rather scandalous, and I'm waiting for Byron Donalds to get into all of that and expose this guy once and for all, because we cannot afford to have him win this nomination. I know he's far behind on the polls, but this is one where we shouldn't have any worries. We should be able to get Byron Donalds the nomination and walk right into the governor's mansion. And, you got to understand with Byron Donalds, the Democrats, he'll be the first black Republican governor of Florida. Now, somebody may go back in time and say in the 1860s or 1870s there was a black governor. I don't know. I haven't researched it. But back in the post-Civil War era, there was a 10-year military occupation of the Confederate States, and the Republicans didn't let the Democrats in the South elect their leaders. So they appointed people, and a lot of times they appointed black governors, black senators, black House members. So if there was a black governor in the late 1860s or 1870s, he didn't win an election. He was just appointed by the Republicans in Washington. Big difference. Byron Donalds would be the first black governor of Florida and a Republican. Florida is the 3rd most populated state. This is the most MAGA state in America. The entire country is being run by Florida. The president lives in Florida. Kash Patel lives in Florida. Pam Bondi is from Florida. You know what I mean? So the idea of having a black MAGA Republican elected to governor of Florida, which is a path to the Senate or maybe the vice presidency or presidency down the road, is a nightmare to the Democrat Party and the Republican establishment. The Jeb Bush Republican establishment are still trying to figure out ways to get back in power. And a MAGA governor like Byron Donalds is going to make that a little difficult for them. They don't want that. And the Democrats having a prominent black MAGA Republican being elected in the third most populated state that's soon to become the second most populated state, that's a nightmare for them too. So this race is going to get very nasty. It's going to be a nasty primary. And Byron Donalds, when he wins the primary, that's going to be nasty too. Because a MAGA Republican who's black the Democrats are like, we can't let that happen. I mean, they're just like, we'll forever be done. It's got them pretty scared. And when they're scared, they do things. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. My name is Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk. If you're new, make sure you subscribe. And please like the video before you go. I will talk to you next time. Take care. Thanks for watching and listening.